Hi, my name is Joseph Greenley. I have ulcerative colitis, which meant I have an ileostomy bag, and we can fight this together.
This is episode 5 with YouTube's very own Joseph Greenley. Welcome to CrohnsCast, where each week we try to bring you someone that we find inspiring within our world of IBD disease to try and help you come to terms with the difficult things in your life. Tonight we're talking to Joseph Greenley. You may know him better as JP Greenley from his YouTube channel or Instagram, and he is a powerlifter and he also has an ileostomy. So tonight we're going to be talking through how he does his training, how that training works with having an ileostomy, and he was really cool to chat to. He stayed towards the end when I give him the 3 truths. He comes up with some really unusual answers. So stay tuned for that. If you really enjoy the episode, don't forget to subscribe so you can get updated when we upload, and hit that like button. Leave us a comment down below so we can have a chat about this and make it a bit more of a mainstream discussion. We'll get into it.
Yeah.
So, question 1. If you could walk me through your life prior to being diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, and then you can slant into since when you got your ostomy and that sort of stuff as well. So if you walk me through your life prior to diagnosis and since having your ostomy.
Okay. Well, I'll just go straight to when with the ostomy, because I got my ileostomy when I was 17, and I didn't really have my condition, or I may have had my condition before that. However, I was only diagnosed a couple of months before my surgery. So if we talk about how I got to that point, I was just a young man who had the usual symptoms of losing weight very quickly, no appetite, blood when you went to the bathroom, some mucus to gross people out. And because I was a young man, I wouldn't talk to anyone about it. I mentioned it to a few people. I wouldn't go to the doctor. My mum made me go. The doctor told me I had a hemorrhoid, and that was the cause of the blood. Makes sense because the bowel would have been inflamed, which would have inflamed the glands, blah, blah, blah. But it was a misdiagnosis. I believe, I ended up in A&E. After being in A&E, I missed a college trip to Rome because I was in there for 12 days while they ran a load of tests. I was in agony with my stomach. They gave me morphine and stuff. First time I had it, great stuff. And then I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis after a few scans and endoscopy. They pumped me full of prednisolone steroids, and I was on my way. I lost a lot of weight, but I started going back to the gym straight away because I needed to get back to where I was physically for college, because I did PE in college. But a month later, I was getting my symptoms back as I started coming off the prednisolone, as you're supposed to. I basically started getting all the symptoms back, and I remember passing out on the landing waiting for the bathroom because my mum was in the bathroom.
Wow.
So, and then I ended up back in A&E, and long story short,
for you at that point.
probably that was a lot of a steady slope to my decline. I ended up in hospital. They gave me more steroids. It didn't work. And I just spent a month, without being over dramatic, just dying because I was just losing weight. All I would do is every couple of hours, I was nil by mouth, so I had no food. I would get up, hold onto my little thing, waddle to the toilet, bleed, be in serious pain, waddle back, and then sit in a bed.
I was you on any IVs that you know of?
Oh, they put me on IV steroids. So it was a month of trial and error of lots of different treatments. And what happened was it was a bank holiday weekend, and it was I was going to say long story short, but why not get into it while it's fresh in my mind. But it was a bank holiday weekend, and on the Thursday, the doctor who I had told me, right, this treatment that you're having now is the final type of steroid that we want to use. If this doesn't work, we will go to toxin. I couldn't remember the name of it, some toxins, but the last possible thing would be surgery. because we don't want surgery. And I was like, okay, you're the doctor. And then the next day, the Friday, the Friday, my mum came in and my dad, and I was really not responsive. My skin was kind of greenish. And basically my mum panicked because I was, usually most days I could talk and I could get up, at least sit up. And that day I couldn't. And she was like, get my son some bloods, get them this. And I had to be rushed in for emergency surgery.
Well, you started getting septicemia, had you?
Yeah, no. What had happened is my white blood cell count had gone ridiculously high. And there was only one anaesthetist team in the hospital because of the bank holiday. And I also ended up with a surgeon who was a small bowel specialist, not a large bowel, called Dr. Benamida. He performed my surgery. It was an emergency, so I ended up with just the scar, like a big scar going straight down. Because they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. They thought that I would end up with one stoma, maybe two, to reconnect. But what they found is the entire colon was inflamed, and they got rid of the entire thing. So I had the surgery and I had an epidural, and the pain relief from before and after surgery was incredible. Like I literally went from I was going to die if my mum had not come in and noticed and I'd have been left alone, I might not be here, to a couple of hours later I was like, the next early morning I was back to being fine. But that surgery actually had complications and went wrong. They had put the sutures too tight around the stoma. So when food got to it, it would reverse and come back, but liquid could go through. So they thought there was a twist in the bowel, and they basically put me for another month in hospital, where they were like, no, it's a twist, or it's a blockage, or it's this. And I was going through loads of tests to avoid surgery. But again, I couldn't eat. I can't
have that IG thing down your nose.
I've had a few. I've had a few because they would think that I was getting better and take it out, and I pulled one out myself because it was easier than the nurse doing it.
Yeah.
And then they were like, we've got to open you up and find out what's going on. And then they found out that that's what it was. And then about 4 days later, I went home. It was a lot. It was 3 months in hospital for a 17-year-old.
That's a long time.
Yeah. I still know some of the nurses at the hospital because
you still live in the same area?
I do. Yeah, I do. I live in the same area, unfortunately. So if I end up at that hospital again, but that's my pre and then post ostomy kind of period as a young man. That's how I stumbled into having an ileostomy.
What was you like for you as a 17-year-old facing that?
I was very grateful because I knew how close to not being here I was, and my parents made me remember that. My mum, because a part of me after I left was a bit angry because they had made the mistake. And obviously, if I had the inclination, I probably could have sued or something. But my mum always said, like, they did save your life at the end of the day. Like, yeah, you could, but... And I was like, well, yeah, that's true. And I wouldn't want to be ungrateful to the NHS because they did save my life.
In the build-up to being hospitalised, like how looking back now, almost retrospectively, actual retrospectively, how do you feel it was affecting you as a 17-year-old in that space before you had your diagnosis? Did you have concerns? Was it affecting anything like?
It definitely did. I was really lethargic. I didn't want to do things. I didn't want to hang out with people. I was just sick. And my PE coach, I can't remember her name, but she still to this day remembers me because she thought I was putting it on, because every time we would go to a session where I'd have to train, because I was doing basketball as my main point and I was trying to train for that, and I was always saying that I'm sick and I'm not well, and she didn't believe me. And then she found out I ended up in hospital. So she's always remembered that, because I've seen her since in a local gym. And like I was being sick from college. I was missing college. I was just lying in bed, just not wanting to do anything. But I told my mum, I told my girlfriend at the time, who I was with before I was in hospital the first time. But we broke up when I got out of hospital, mainly because I didn't know if I knew that I'd end up being back there, but I just wanted to be on my own. Finding out about the condition, I thought I had to figure out who I was and what this thing was. And next thing I know, I was back in hospital anyway. So yeah, as a 17-year-old, it was a tough to break down, like, mentally. But I kind of like to think that I'm a positive person, so it didn't upset me in any way. I just kind of tried to carry on as normal. But when I didn't feel well enough, I just told people, and just certain people just didn't believe me.
Well, at least you adapted quicker than I did. I mean, what just amazed me is how similar our diagnosis stories are to a point. So I was 17 whenever it happened to me, and I had months of similar, like, bloody stools.
Yeah.
I'd just joined the army as well, so
right.
I was like fainting on parades and constantly like that lethargy and just like not really focused and like being really crap on exercise where you're like out in the woods doing soldier stuff.
Yeah.
And it took me ages to actually go sick, and then like similarly they thought I had a pile or all this random stuff, and then it wasn't until they did my blood tests that they went, your red blood cell count is so low and your white blood cell count is so high. He sent me in for an endoscopy, and then the doctor there, Colonel Rodriguez, was like, you must be in agony. I was meant to fly home on leave that same day, and so he was like, well, we can give you this, but it means you can't fly. So I was like, right, I don't want it. So I had no pain relief for the scoop, and I've never ever had a scoop since without pain relief.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I've had to cut one short even with pain relief when I had just the stump left because it was so bad. So you doing that without is, wow, that must have been hard.
And then they admitted me straight away, and then at that point, very similar, high doses of prednisolone and mesalazine. I think I was in for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then it sort of stabilized, and they sent me home. But then I was quite fortunate, and that's where we differ. Is like I continued to stabilize.
Yeah.
And then had control, sort of, with just managing doses of mesalazine. So it would ebb and flow what the dose was for a period of like 3 or 4 years. I was able to be medication free, which knowing what I know now about the disease is a very fortuitous thing to actually be in. But then hit my 30s, started my 30s, and then I went back to where you were a month later. So I had a massive flare in hospital. Nothing was touching it, and then I think I was in for about a month doing similarly lots of different IVs and just literally started off all right, and then all of a sudden, I don't know what, I think it was the high dose of steroids they must have had me on. They just started getting really sort of like almost arthritically feeling joints and things like that.
Oh yeah. The pain of just getting out of bed to get to the toilet. Ridiculous.
And then it was like I was starting to defecate myself as well.
Yeah.
And then I think it was called cyclosporin. I tried was the last chance saloon for me. And then that wasn't working, and I was similar position to you. I was just nose diving.
Yeah.
And then the doctor was like, "Yeah, I think you need surgery." So then he came around to talk to me that day before to start, because I was like, his results were going the wrong way. So they were like, we're prepping me, and they were going to do it the Monday, and ironically, mine was on a weekend as well.
Yeah.
So
they've got to get to golf. They can't do it on the weekend. You've got to be ready by Monday, unfortunately, mate. You know, choose like cars.
Yeah. And he came on the Friday to chat, or the Thursday, so to chat to me about it. And And then I randomly was speaking to the nurse on the Friday going, I think I need to go. And he came round and he checked my bloods. So I don't know what went on in the background. All I know is he spoke to me on Thursday to prep me for what was coming. And the sign off thing to say like, yeah, I consent. And then he came round on the Friday after I'd spoken to the nurse saying, I think it happened. He did a check of the bloods and whatnot. He was like, we're getting you in tonight. So that was like midnight and it was then, that was literally my birthday. That at midnight was my birthday.
Wow.
30th birthday.
Happy birthday.
And then this was like, at midnight was queuing me up and like going, oh yeah, it's my birthday today. He goes, oh, I'm really sorry I have to do this on my birthday. And I was just like, well, it's all right. You're hopefully going to stop me from midnight.
Well, hopefully it goes okay.
Yeah. No, but that's what has blown my mind is like how similar, despite obviously mine being 17 and then 30, the two episodes are so similar, and just like the number of people out there that go through the same thing it just shocks me.
Some people are resilient to the steroid either after a certain amount of time, or there's people who are in my situation where it's no matter what they threw at it, it just wouldn't subside. And I'm not part of a study. I'm helping create like a questionnaire survey with Sheffield University to send out a survey to patients who've got ileostomies who are steroid resistant, and then to the practitioners, the doctors and the nurses, and to try and find find answers from the survey about people who are resistant to steroids with Crohn's.
That's really interesting. How did you get involved with Sheffield University for this study?
It was Nicola, the CEO of Vanilla Blush. Vanilla Blush is a clothing brand. They make underwear for people who have ostomies and stomas, and they make hernia support. So I've modelled for them on their website a few times, and they make like a hernia belt, hernia underwear, and like she's really in the background. She's just got a lot of influence, and she's trying to help as much as she can. She must be such a busy individual, like doing charity work, obviously something like this. And Nicola's brilliant, and because of her I met a lot of other people with stomas. I think I went about 6 or 7 years before I met another person who even had an ileostomy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds incredible. I actually didn't even realise that there was something like that out there.
Yeah.
That was one of my main frustrations when I had my ostomy, was like clothing things. So when I was wearing a suit, it would bulge out through my shirt. And things like that. Something I've started investigating myself now, trying to make the clothing line more for men. Focusing on the issues I found I had when I had it wasn't that I was ashamed to show it off. Like when I was at the beach and stuff like that, I was just like, I can't be bothered. I'm just me. But when it came to like actually wearing clothes, like a shirt or just t-shirts and stuff like that, it would just sit funny, and I just feel like
I as a young man who got his, I was very paranoid about people being able to see it. I used to put on certain t-shirts and be like, I still do it now. I'll put on a certain t-shirt and be like, nope, not wearing that. Not today. Don't feel like I want to wear it, because it'll like hang on the bag in a certain way. Whereas, so I've worn some of their hernia vests. I prefer the vests that they have, and that just keeps it flat to your stomach. Whereas women can wear high-waisted jeans, that does the same sort of thing. Women have a lot more variety when it comes to clothes. You know, we have shorts, boxers, and trousers, and there's your lot, and a kilt. Sorry, and but that's kind of your lot. So yeah, they've made some things that have been quite helpful. But as a young man, I found my own ways around it. One of my main things that I wanted to try to do was build a bigger chest, because if you had a bigger chest, then the t-shirt would sit there and fall forwards, and it wouldn't touch your stomach because you were So if you stood up straight and you stood up with good posture, you actually wouldn't see the bag.
I can see the thought.
That was my thinking.
How has life changed since getting diagnosed and having urostomy then? So what sort of, you can talk through the early periods, we've just touched on it a little bit, of having some issues with getting dressed and having a stoma, but what else, how was life different post that surgery for you?
Well, what I did, which in some ways was a good thing and in some ways was a bad thing, is I just tried to be as normal as possible. So, I mean, the second day I came out of surgery, it was my friend's birthday, and I went to his house and I walked there. So I'd had surgery 5 days before, and I walked up a hill. I tried to run across the road and couldn't. Yeah. I fell. My mate laughed at me and then helped me. And then I just sat in my friend's house while he had his party, and I just sat there and talked to whoever wanted to come around and ask me how I was doing. And that's the mentality I had. I was just going to keep going as normal as I would. I remember I went to go see my nurse, and I had my bag out of my trousers. Like, I just wore a long t-shirt, and she was like, "No, don't do that. Tuck it into between your trousers and your boxers." And I was like, "Cool, I'll do that." And then from that's probably the best advice I got from my stoma nurse. And then, because I for some reason fell off their radar. I've not seen them until recently.
Yeah.
Literally recent, like a few months ago, since I was 18 or something. Anyway, but I carried on as normal as much as I could. I learned how to change my bag. And then, other than having the bag attached to me, nothing about my life really changed. When I went back to college, I changed my courses. I no longer did the physical education thing because I didn't see it being a part of my career. Mm-hmm. So when I was in hospital, I obviously had a lot of time to think, and I spent a lot of time watching films. There's nothing much else to do. So I wanted to go into animation. So by knowing that, and because I was doing art and graphics in college as well as physical education and history, real weird mix. Then I went back to college with a bit more of a focus, and that focus was to get into university to do like 3D modeling and animation. So yeah, that was me afterwards. I still drank with my friends. I still went and stayed in camping outside. I learned how to drive at the same time they did. A little bit behind because I'd been in hospital, but I just carried on as I thought was normal. But because of that, I didn't try and reach. So that was the good side of it. So the bad side of that is I didn't try and actively find more information about ileostomies or colitis, or if anyone else has it. I just thought, this is me, this is my thing. No one else in my little area has it. So therefore the internet, I'm not going to even bother and just carry on in my own little lane. So because of that, I didn't find about Crohn's and Colitis UK. I didn't find about the support that you can find there. And I didn't find about like different types of bags. I think my stoma nurses, like they give me a few samples once, and I've picked one of those, and I had that for about 10 years until they discontinued the bag. So yeah, good and bad. So that's kind of how I changed my life, which didn't really change much.
So did you struggle anyway with a sort of stigma attached to having a bag? Was there any sort of like issues around that?
Yeah, so I did. Just like any teenager or any young man, I had insecurities, and the bag was one of them. Mm-hmm. I was always physically active when I was on all the sports teams in school, and I was okay. I wasn't the best, but I was okay, and always made the main teams. But afterwards, I kind of struggled a bit with my weight. I didn't have very good nutrition and didn't have a very good nutritional understanding when I came out of hospital. So my idea of gaining weight back was eating everything in sight, and I just got really fat. And then I kind of struggled with my weight since. It was always either high or too low. I'd either go to the gym and do loads and loads, Basically how it would go is I'd go to university, my weight would go up because I would drink and eat so much all the time. And then when I came back from in the summer, I would just work through the summer at McDonald's and I would just go to the gym. So I would lose weight, and it was kind of a bit of a vicious cycle. Not too vicious, but so like that was an insecurity about like how I looked. I didn't like taking my top off in public. Even when I went on holiday, I wasn't like one of those people who would like rock their bag on the beach. I was just like, I would lie there without my top on, but really I'd rather just go and do something cool, like sightseeing or something, instead of just lying there. But I'm not much of a kind of a beach bum. I can't lie there. I just get twitchy and need to go. Bored. But I think some of the other struggles would be I always was scared about like people smelling it after they went in after me. If I went to someone's house that I knew, I was worried that they would like, oh, I've got to empty my bag and I don't want it to smell. Now I'm not too fussed. I mean, everybody poops. It smells. You can't get around it. But I'd come up with a method to try and get rid of it as fast as possible, but therefore the smell wouldn't be bad. And if they had bleach in there, I'd be like, use a bit of bleach and that'll get rid of the smell. And is that what I would do as a young man? And then obviously the opposite sex, talking to girls and things like that. It was something that came up sometimes, but I always found that if they didn't really want to talk to me once they found out, then I didn't have to waste my time. But the ones who did talk to me about it, it was always met with usually a positive response. So, and it was always a talking point, at least. I'd be standing with one of my friends and my friends would fart, and then they'd blame me, and then I'd be like, well, I can't fart, and then the person would be like, oh, why can't you? And then I'd be like, because I have an ileostomy bag. What's that? Show them or talk to them, and then there's a talking point. And so I did,
Funny, because I almost feel like I lost my talk. Like whenever my ostomy got reversed into a J pouch, I felt like I'd lost a part of myself, because it's like an icebreaker, isn't it? Yeah.
It's it still is for me, but I did early on. I did wish that it wasn't there at times. I'd wish that there was I could Wolverine and just heal myself and be back to normal. But I'd also wish that I'd wake up and had £1 million in the bank. It doesn't happen. So I never thought of myself as disabled, and I never thought of myself as not being like, I never thought of myself as like, if I didn't have this, I would be this. So like at the gym, if I didn't have my bag, I would pull 250 kilograms. I can't think like that, because that's not my reality. So why pretend that it is? So I don't think like that. And maybe that mentality is why I didn't struggle too much. So the one thing though, that just come to me, is swimming. Swimming is something I used to love, and I did find it took me years to get back to swimming. Because there was I didn't want to swim with just my t-shirt off, because the bags become, they become kind of see-through, don't they?
Yeah.
So because of that, I didn't like swimming anymore. So that is the one thing that did change, and the one thing that I find hard to get over. But luckily, Vanilla Blush have brought out these waterproof swimming shorts that cover it. And
okay.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
I'm literally going to be checking out their website after this.
Yeah, man. You'll see my face, and probably a bit more, because they do underwear. So sorry about that.
What has your disease taught you about yourself? Or what has your story like? So becoming diagnosed ulcerative colitis, and then very quickly ended up with an ostomy. And through to now, what has it taught you about yourself?
Well, firstly, it put things into perspective for me. I think I was a little bit vain when I was a younger man, when I was like 16, 17. And it gave me a good reality check. And I think I could have tried to push for a reversal, and I was like, why do I want that when it could end up making me in the bathroom like half of my life, because they said as much as your bag fills will be as much as you probably go to the loo, and I'm like, no, I don't want to live. And I thought to myself, why do I want that decision? I was like, because I want to look normal. I'm like, well, that's really vain, and that's really, you want to lessen your quality of life just so you look like everyone else. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So my disease has basically made me kind of more of a skeptical, critical thinker. I weigh things up a lot more. It also showed me how I can be positive in very dark situations. I'm quite driven. And then the other part of me that really developed in that time was my mental fortitude. I know my brain can keep going when my body doesn't want to. This is in charge most of the time more than this is, which comes into training a lot. But yeah, I think without my disease, I would have found these qualities, but because it happened at such an early age, it kind of forced me to develop these skills that have helped me as I've grown.
Talk to me a little bit about then why and how did you actually start powerlifting, or just getting into powerlifting?
Like I said earlier, when I was in university and stuff, like I still lifted and I still went to the gym, but I followed the men's health magazines, I read them, and I didn't really find a lot of information online because I didn't look. Usual thing for me is I should look for more information. But then when I left university, I got a job at a games company, TT Games, that make the Lego games, and I was just sat down all day as a games tester, and then I did 12-hour shifts, and my weight was climbing because I was so inactive. So to combat that, I went to the gym. And then I was like, well, I need to find out more about this to train better, to lose weight. How do I lose weight? But I wanted to do it in a bodybuilding way, because anyone who loses weight, who looks the best, is usually a bodybuilder. And so when I was doing night shifts, to get ready for a night shift, the day before, I would stay up all night to get myself into that sleeping cycle. And I just binged YouTube videos, and I found the people who were talking rubbish, and the bro science, and I moved that out of the way, and I found the science-based individuals, and I delved really deep into it, and I just used that. And for about 2-3 years, skipping forward, lifting became a big part of my life then. It was a balance between that. I used to do the if it fits your macros loosely. And then I found that I was always moving towards the numbers side of things. So when it came to my programming, it was always percentages. And when I wanted to know if I'd gained muscle, if I wanted to know if I got stronger, it was always a 1-rep max test. So I was kind of power building. Yeah. And then I thought, well, why not I just be a power lifter? Because I'm not going to be, bodybuilding's cool, and it's one of the least risk, like injury risks of all of the lifting community, but it's subjective at the end of the day. If you turn up and a judge doesn't like your walk, your smile, like your delts, you lose. But if you turn up and powerlift or weightlift, if you lift the weight, there is no one to say, well, you didn't do that. Yeah. Well, there are rules, but if you lift the weight on the day, you win. It's not subjective. And
I think bodybuilding is obviously the more vain of the disciplines.
Yeah. And I'd never want to get in those little shorts, little like thong. My cousin is a bodybuilder, or he was. He did like Mr. Great Britain and stuff, and I looked at that and was like, that's a really impressive physique, but I wouldn't want to present that like that. I wouldn't want to do a routine, but I would like to rip 200 kg off the ground in front of people. That'd be cool. Yeah. And the strongman as well. Like I remember watching it as a young man. Strongman's pretty cool as well as a and that interest. So that interests me more. So that's what got me into powerlifting. And I was very critical of my own lifts. I would film my lift. I would then watch a video about the like squat mechanics and stretching for it and what am I doing wrong. And I saw how many other people in the gym like didn't squat right, and I used to be one of them, and I prided myself on like the fact that, because the gym and training is self-improvement, and everyone there would just turn up, do the same thing, expect some miraculous change, and then they'd bugger off. Whereas I was like improving not just the weights that I lifted, but how I lifted them, and you know, the recovery and the warm up, the cool down. I was picking apart my own stuff, and I really loved the process. So it's become a huge part of my life now, actually.
From what I've seen, you know, you've certainly got the dedication, and you've
Thank you.
made progress going just that short cycle that you've put up on YouTube. What advice would you give for someone who's been newly diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, or has just been told that they need to have an ostomy?
Firstly, I would say if you end up with a stoma bag or an ileostomy, that it's not the end of the world. You can live a full life. Take me, for example. I went to college, I went to uni, I have a good career, I have a fiance, I own my own house, if you think that's
Congratulations.
Yeah. So I've had I've had the life that I wanted with my ileostomy, and I see that online there's a lot of people who have full lives as well. I would also say to reach out. There is a huge community on Instagram. Facebook is good, but I find that it can be a little bit more, not toxic, but it's a bit downbeat.
Yeah.
Where people usually use that to vent a lot, and if you're coming out of a bad situation, you might read other people's comments. So look for positive reinforcement and positive community, and I think Instagram's probably the best. There is Crohn's and Colitis UK. They have their companion app, like web page. They have people on call 24/7 that you can speak to about your problems. Talk to people. Don't do what I did and just, you know, well, do some of what I did, but don't do the whole kind of just doing it on your own. And then the other thing would be to don't take everything someone says as complete gospel, because there's certain pieces of information that work for others, but you know, that works for them, but it might not work for you, or it doesn't work for them, but it would work for you. I know people with stomas who, like me, I can eat strawberries. I knew a guy who couldn't eat them because of the seeds. He would get a blockage. He would avoid them completely. I know someone who can eat like smooth peanut butter. Someone who has to completely avoid it, and people who can't have baby wipes because it irritates their skin. People who can. There's just don't rule anything out. Be skeptical but rational, and you'll find your own way through trial and error.
I think that's brilliant. I've literally just found the companion app myself, and I was like, I think did you do a video on it?
I did a video about IBD and employment. They have a couple in there on their companion about like the laws that protect you and what you have to disclose, or you don't have to disclose anything unless you have to take a medical test. And I just wanted to highlight my YouTube channel is partly to show what I do in my life, but also to try and give good information. So yeah, if you have an ileostomy, try and find that good information, because there is a lot out there.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally that video that brought it to my attention. Before that, I'd been on the website and obviously just not paying good enough attention when I was on the website, because I was going
a lot of information. They have like every study that they're backing, all of the research they back. There is a page that lists all of it and the findings of all of those. There's so much there that unfortunately hasn't had a lot of light shed on it, but they're only a small charity. So unless you go looking, and I implore more people to do so, you'll find some interesting stuff.
Yeah, and actually, what you mentioned about Facebook is I've noticed that a lot lately. I try to be involved on there as much as possible and give some what I feel is it's obviously what's the word I'm looking for? First, it's obviously just my own personal opinion. I'm not trying to give a medical opinion or anything like that. But I try to give like a rounded approach when I give someone a comment, and sort of, I'm just looking at a lot of the stuff, particularly actually in the last week or so, has been like people they're obviously having real issues, and they need some form of help or some form of intervention. But yeah, it's like Ostomy Athletes is completely different. So there's a Facebook group called Ostomy Athletes that I'm part of, that I joined whenever I still had an ostomy. I asked permission, and they said I could stay on when I got my ostomy reversed.
Cool. I've not heard of that one. Maybe I should join.
Yeah, it's really good. It makes a lot. Just lots of variety. So many different people doing so many different types of sport. But it's really good form of advice, particularly for people with ostomies. That people are always willing just to give anecdotal evidence. That's the word. Anecdotal, that's it. Advice on what has worked for them, essentially, and you can take it and try it, and if it doesn't, then adapt it, change it to how it might fit for yourself. And it's really good. A lot of people are very positive on that group. But in other groups, I find I'm going, wow, I'm having a real downer, just like scrolling through my Facebook feed going, whoo, gone deep today.
Yeah, I find the same. It is like that sometimes, and I'd step back, especially if you're someone who's new to having an ileostomy. You're gonna have the insecurities. You're gonna have the wake up and you forgot it's there, and you're back in your old body the way that it used to be, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, there's a bag of crap, and there's a reality check, and it takes time to get over that. It's a natural process. So when you come across all this negativity, and it's perfectly okay to step away and take some time from it.
Okay, so what advice would you give to someone with IBD or ostomies that are thinking about taking up powerlifting?
So this is where you have to be very careful. And I try and be careful on my channel as well. Is I never give medical advice as someone who's not a medical practitioner or a coach. So I'll go off what I did, my anecdotal evidence, but I'll also go off some things that I've seen from others. But my first piece of advice would be, if you're flaring up, there's no point stressing your body further. So if it's during a flare, you don't have to go in and hit the weights very hard. And also, I believe you only have to do about 40% of your volume. So if you're used to going into the gym and doing 3 sets of 10, you could go in and do 1 set of 8 or 1 set of 10 on a low weight, and you'll keep your muscle mass. Your body's very good at holding on to your muscle as long as you're eating. So if you could still train during a flare if you're comfortable enough, but you don't have to go in and hit it really hard, because all you're doing is you're attacking your nervous system, and you're putting it under extra strain, which is going to put your body under strain. During a flare, you're going to make things worse. For people who've had surgery and they want to get back into training, it depends how you were before. If you were quite overweight beforehand, and then you've lost a lot of weight because of surgery and you want to get back into it, you should start really slow, and you should probably start with a trainer. And also get as much free advice as possible from the NHS. Get the dietitian to actually help you. Ask really prominent questions like, this is my goal. Have a goal. This is my goal after my surgery. How do I get there? and then ask your doctor the same thing. And if you can, have them do some rehabilitation with you, because I'm pretty sure if you really push for it, you will get that, because it's part of the service. A lot of people think that, I just go home now and that's it. But be active in trying to get that help. And then if you were someone who you were fit and healthy before, you're pretty proficient with training, you'll know your body the most, but I would go in and what I did was I trained at home before I ever went to the gym doing body weight stuff, because if I couldn't do a body weight squat, there was no way I was going to load up the leg press, even with moderate weight, because I didn't want to build up a lot of strength on these machines and then get to a free weight, try and do a similar weight, and then just injure myself because I drop it, or I try a squat and my core couldn't handle it and I get a hernia, which we're all terrified about after surgery. So I started with body weight stuff. Even before doing a body weight squat after surgery, I just flexed in the mirror. And I don't mean just to make myself feel better. I did that because I wanted to flex my abs and I wanted to flex my core. I wanted to be able to see if I could brace it. Could I retract my diaphragm without pain?
Out of curiosity, how long did it take you to transition from doing bracing exercises like that and body weight exercises to starting to load yourself with a bar and things?
Okay, yeah. So I think I was doing the bracing exercises 2 weeks after, but it was quite painful. So I knew then that I wouldn't be able to do a press up or anything like that. So it was about 3 weeks until I started doing some body weight stuff. And I think it was maybe the 4th and 5th week is when I started maybe adding in a little bit of weight. So just some dumbbells for some curls and some like lateral raises, bent over rows kind of thing. And I believe it was maybe 3. I was back in work in 2.5 months. So I believe I was in the gym at that time as well. But I literally started I was doing free weight. So I deadlifted, but it was just the bar with 5 kilo plates. So the lightest thing I could put on it with it being the right height. And I started with that. I have it on my YouTube channel of my recovery. And yeah, and the thing I did as well is walk. I walked a lot, like very early on. I walked out of the hospital, holding on to the trolley that they gave me with all my stuff on. Even though my partner really was annoyed by it, because she was like, "Stop walking around." I'm like, "No." And this is my most recent surgery. Mm-hmm. The one beforehand, when I was younger, I didn't have this experience, and I didn't go in with a plan. And that one, I just tried to be normal.
How long ago was your most recent surgery, and would you mind?
Yeah, sorry, I've skipped right over that, didn't I? So yes, I had my ileostomy surgery when I was 17, but I always struggled with my rectal stump that was left. It still had colitis. And I tried. Did you ever have Pred foam?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like a little tube and stuff.
And you press it and the
thing, and you. Oh.
And it was like I describe it as builder's foam.
Yeah.
And imagine having a stump probably about this big, and then having a foam that released that was supposed to go inside a full colon.
Yeah.
It was very, very painful, and I had to do it twice a day for about 6 weeks, and it still didn't work. No medication, no nothing touched this stump. So I decided to have surgery, which is called a proctectomy. And I had that 4 years ago now. And I did choose for it. I had to wait about a year. And because I still had some of those, because I don't get fatigue anymore from my condition, because I don't have any active colitis in my body. But so yeah, I decided to get rid of it because I would get fatigue, I would get like colds, and I used to just go to the toilet and the stump would bleed, so really uncomfortable. So this is the surgery where I actually came out with a plan, because I lost weight. My fitness journey was to lose weight after starting at the work and finding out, if you sit on your bum all day, you're going to get fat. And then the second, I did a bulk after that, and then I did another cut, and the cut was into this surgery to be my idea was to be as fit and as healthy as I physically could, so that when I had surgery, I would bounce back quicker.
Were you powerlifting before this surgery, or were you bodybuilding?
Not powerlifting, it was more power building. I still did 1 rep maxes. I still focused on the squat, bench and deadlift. But I wasn't doing a bro split anymore. So even though when I did bro splits, Monday was leg day because everyone did chest. So the squat rack was free. Going back to your question about someone getting into powerlifting, I wouldn't, unless you had a really specific goal after your surgery, I wouldn't power lift really, because the pressure that is put on your body from lifting maximal loads is really intense. It's really core intensive, it's central nervous system intensive. So if you have Crohn's, and unlike me where I have ulcerative colitis, because I've had the surgery, like I said, I don't have any of those symptoms, but if you have Crohn's, you can still have symptoms. So I wouldn't want to overload the system so soon after surgery. I would go into more of a bodybuilding style training, because you can keep the intensity low, the weights low, and just keep the volume high, build that muscle, build that physique, and then after 6 months to a year, then I would start powerlifting. I would move into more of the specific lifts and going for those training maximal loads. That would be more of my approach for someone who was a bit newer. I think that would be a safe bet.
Well, so when you're doing your training, and obviously we talked a little bit about you going through like a bracing process and then a gradual loading process.
Yeah.
What way do you manage your ostomy? So obviously, for those that don't know, you've got a parastomal hernia, essentially. That's what it is. So with a live sort of hernia, how do you manage your ostomy whilst you're doing your training?
I just make sure the bag isn't full. That's about it. I try to remember to wear my vanilla blush kind of vest that compresses it to me, but I really don't focus too much on it. I used to try not to load the core, so I used to avoid doing very direct ab work, and even if I do direct ab work, if I feel any pain, I just stop doing it, or I'll find a way where it isn't painful. For me, planks are great because I don't feel any pain, and it's something I started doing planks after surgery, like doing them for 10 seconds and then built them up over time, doing like 3 sets, 5 sets of 10 seconds, then 20, and so on. But yeah, I try and make sure it's empty. And in some of my videos on YouTube, you can see it, because when I brace, I'm pushing. You shouldn't really just push your stomach out when you brace. It's more complicated, but without getting into how that works. But that's what happens. You expand and kind of crunch down on it. And I don't care that people can see it. I used to wear a hoodie, but now I'm in a gym where everyone knows about it. I really don't care. I do wear a weightlifting belt, but I used to have more of not a leather one. I had one of the more malleable ones.
Like
that actually went over the stoma.
Yeah.
And then I moved on to, when I started lifting heavier, I moved on to a more like an IPF approved belt. And I've just had to move it around until it's comfortable. But because there's no nerves in the stoma itself, it never really gets in my way.
Yeah.
I have played football and stuff with it and been elbowed in it, and it's kind of more of a shock than like, oh, but nothing, I've never had an injury from it, luckily.
Have you ever had any scares where you've woken up having slept on it, it's like disappeared and you're like, oh my God?
Well, because mine's actually quite prominent, it's quite big, it's about yay long. It's quite a long spout. It never disappears, even when it's, because it can retract. Even when it's retracted, it's never going anywhere. But I've lay on the. I can sleep on my front now. I've had it so long, my body's adjusted, I assume, to it. But I've had some scares with pain, not in the gym, which is weird. Usually, some of my injuries that affect the gym happen outside. So I've had sharp pains around my stoma when I've just been sat on the couch. Sometimes that might be something I've eaten, or I think it is just a muscle spasm from me trying to sit up. But other than that, my stoma is luckily quite good. So when people ask me why don't I have a hernia lifting the weights I do, part of me thinks it's luck, part of me thinks it's the inexperience of the surgeon who may have overdone it with the sutures. He's just stapled the crap out of my stoma and it's not going anywhere.
Do you still get issues sometimes with it not passing? I know my mate John, you might have seen him if you've watched any of my previous videos. He had a J pouch, had to have it reversed, so he's come back to an ostomy. He had a lot of issues with it prolapsing at the minute, so he's prolapsed 3 times trying to get back into training. So we've been doing a little bit of talk with him about that. And one of the things that he discussed with his surgeon was they didn't think that they did a good enough job actually securing it. So it's interesting that your thoughts are that they maybe over-secured it.
Yeah, I do, because like I said earlier, the first surgery, it was so tight that nothing could pass through it other than liquid. So I believe that he really, and when I hear about people having it, like it perforate, come through, it makes sense. It must be that. It can't be your body's fault, because your body didn't create this thing. You don't make a stoma. We don't get ulcerative colitis in our body. We go, right, our body's just going to die. That's what was going to happen. If no one was going to come in and cut us open, we just wouldn't be here. So it's got to be a technical fault with the procedure. In my mind, that's how I would see it, because I know a friend of mine, he had hernia surgery, and they put like a mesh over the area, and that seems to be secure. But so, surgeries go wrong, and he's had friends who've had the same operation, and it's just that theirs was, I don't know, the mesh wasn't in the right place, or they got an infection which weakened it, or they overtrained too quickly and then they've reopened it. So yeah, that's my thinking on the subject. You
mentioned bracing. I'm not expecting you to go into massive detail, but how long did it take you to sort of learn how to do it appropriately, and when did you start learning how to brace?
I think very early on, when I wanted to start squatting, I watched a lot of like videos on how, and I heard this term bracing, and I was like, what is this? And I remember it from college a bit, and I don't know, I kind of, at first I just tensed my abs, and that's what I thought it was, and then it took me months and to really get to grips with it, and I still work on it, because I was a place called the Strength Therapy in Manchester, not my gym, another gym, And the trainer there, he taught me this maneuver where you brace, and because you take a huge breath in, if you're lifting maximal loads, you can get a nosebleed, or you can pop a blood vessel in your eye. And he had an issue where his eye almost like came out.
I've seen that on TV actually. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was like, my eye was, he popped some blood vessels, but his eye was like massive. And he said it was, he had another individual tell him about this. He called it power breathing, and you put your tongue to the roof of your mouth and you kind of hiss the air back out. So when you get to the point in your brace and you're in the bottom of the squat and you're pushing up and that air wants to come out and you're fighting it, you can, if you breathe out like a valve, like a tss noise, it lets that air out and it kind of alleviates that pressure. And I incorporated that. And another way you can think about it is, if you've ever watched boxing or heard a boxer, they usually tss, tss, as they throw a punch, and that's their way of bracing. They'll do that because as they extend, they're keeping their core tight in case they get a hit to their stomach. And it's the same sort of way that you kind of it keeps things locked in. But so I'm still improving it. I'm also going through a method at the moment which my coach is getting me to do, to breathe through my nose, because you can get more air in to make a better brace. So yeah, it took a long time, and it's still something I'm trying to improve on.
Okay.
Like everything.
Yeah, we never attain perfection.
No, it's a love of the process as much as I like the end result of being able to lift. I mean, I don't lift ridiculous weights. I'm not breaking any records, but breaking my own records. But it's more of the process that I love than just the outcome.
So what inspires you to push through the difficult days?
My family was really good. They were there, and my friends. For my first surgery, my friend Dave, who's going to be my best man at my wedding, I've known him since I was like 12. He was there every day. Like, it was very rare he missed a day when I was in surgery. So I mean, in hospital. So like, I had a good support system. I also knew that I could get through it because I told myself I would. You just gotta suck it up and you know, I'm gonna do it. You know, it's just one more day. And I always count the wins. I always count the small things that add up, and I focus on them and not the others. I heard a great quote from Brian Shaw, like 4-time world strongest man. It was, you either win or you learn. And I like that mentality. But to get me through those days, it's picking the wins. It's like, okay, my bag leaked today, but this went well and this went well, and I had my spares, and you know, I had a spare t-shirt, so it's okay. And to be honest, I don't really like that t-shirt very much, so it's fine. It's that keeps me going. So like, it's that positive like mindset that I try to practice. And then my partner, more recently, Alex and I say more recently, but that first surgery was like 12 years ago. I've been with my partner now, my fiance, for 7 years, and she's always been there for me. She really looked after me after my last surgery, and she's even though she's not as into this fitness thing as me, she supported me through it. She supports me in my powerlifting, and when I had to work night shifts to work in the games industry, she was okay with me not being around. So yeah, she's really good support for me as well.
So what changes have you noticed, if any, since you've had your, is it prostatectomy, was it?
Yeah.
Since you've had your prostatectomy, what changes have you noticed?
A huge amount. So I don't get so my fatigue is usually just normal fatigue from the gym. It always has a cause, whereas beforehand I would I would get fatigue from the condition, which was no matter how much coffee you had, it didn't work. I think I get cold a little bit more now, and the reason for that, I believe, is because I always had active colitis in an isolated area. My white cell count would have been higher, so I'd be able to fight things off a bit more. But I felt like crap. So my overall, like, I know this is going to sound a bit hippy-dippy, but my overall feeling is better within myself because I'm not fatigued more. I'm not dealing with something. I'm not going to the loo and bleeding, and just instead of, because it was mainly at night, I'd want to go to bed and I would get a kind of a sore. It's hard to describe that feeling that you have in that area that doesn't. Do you know what I mean? Then you have to go to the loo, like, so that would wake me up. So my sleep's better. So my quality of life, that's what I'm trying to get at. My quality of life has improved a lot since that surgery, and I'm really glad that I opted for it. I knew if I kept it, there was always the chance of being able to be reconnected. And my doctors, the medical professionals that I was working with, they always wanted to fix it so that you can have it reversed one day if you want. We just got to fix this. And I'm like, that's not why I want to fix this. I want to fix this because it's broken. And I just don't want to have an active disease in my body. Why would anyone want that? I don't need the reversal. And then the fact that it was being removed meant that option would never happen. Which is like, even though I knew that I wouldn't want it anyway, it's nice to always, maybe one day. But that option's now never going to happen, and that's worth it. That's worth the quality of life that I have now.
I know you've got your YouTube, you've got Instagram. Do you want to just give us your YouTube channel name?
It's my name. It's Joseph Greenley. That's Green LY. And if you type in like Crohn's, colitis, diet, or road to recovery, Joseph Greenley, that'll come up with my road to recovery from my previous surgery. My Instagram is JP Greenley 89, which is my date of birth, and I'm 30 in a few days. So when does this come out? Because I might be 30 by.
It's going to be about 3 weeks. It'll be towards the end of October.
I will be 30 when this comes out, so it'll be my birthday by then. So those are the two main places to find me. I do have Facebook, but I don't really use it, especially for this kind of thing. It's more to remind me of when people's birthdays are.
With your channel, what's your main goal or your main message?
So there are three main points to the channel. One is never ever give medical advice. The second is to share good information, like I did with the IBD companion, and then to share my experience and my life with an ostomy, to show others that you can live a full life, whether that be lifting, eating, travel. I think of the 17-year-old me who didn't have that information, and I want my video to find that person who I was and hopefully help them, which is something I needed back then. And so I kind of cater it to that, who doesn't exist.
No, exactly what I'm trying to do as well. It's like I think about where I was and what I didn't know then, and all the anxiety and like.
Yeah, because unfortunately there's no right or wrong answer a lot of the time. People want that one sexy answer, and there is nuance. And on my channel they'll find that I will be like, there's this, and then there's this, and there's trial and error. Be your own scientist. Your patient number one, and the case study number one, and just go out and try, and giving someone that reassurance that they could try new things is a big thing for me, because I don't want to be a YouTuber, and I don't want to be an influencer, because I mean, if you actually break down the word influencer, it's like, so that person is there to influence you to either buy something or do something a certain way. And that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is be like a communicator. That's what I want to do.
An inspirer.
And even that, I don't mind inspiring people, but it's not the aim, because I don't put myself on a pedestal. So it's more like communicating good information and making people aware that they're in charge of what they do and where they go with their ostomy life.
Kind of leads me directly into the next question. If you could pick one thing that the community could learn or you would like them to take from your channel, what would that be?
An ileostomy or an colostomy bag does not take from your life. It gives you life, and you can have an amazing life with one. You're in charge of your life, and it's up to you to make the hard decisions. But I would want people to think of me as someone who tried to show that you're in charge, and you can do anything you set your mind to, and that's what I would want people to remember.
What are your hopes for the future, both personally and professionally, like family and that kind of stuff?
Well, I mentioned my fiance. We're getting married. That's pretty big. Thank you. I put a ring on it, and that's happening in 2021. So that's important. We didn't touch on my like actual work career, but like I said, I work in the games industry. I'm a project lead of the quality assurance department. So I manage quite a lot of projects, about 8 different games, and I have a lot of teams, and I'm trying to move up in that career as a manager. So I'm working on that. That's one of my goals. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel, not to be a YouTuber and not to have like an income from it, but just to share good information, just to help people. And then powerlifting, I want to hit some big numbers. It'd be nice to to be the strongest I could ever be, which would be really cool to find out where that line is, because I'm way stronger than I ever was before my ostomy. And it'd be quite cool to sit. It'd be quite cool. I don't think it will ever happen, but who knows, to go to the world stage with powerlifting with an ileostomy bag. So I would be a disabled person up against the strongest people in the world who are able-bodied. I'm not that far off a qualifying total for just England. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty far off a total for British, but who knows? Who knows?
Powerlifters have got a long lifespan as well, though, haven't they?
Pardon?
Powerlifters have got quite a long lifespan as well.
If I stay injury free, that's it. Maybe I'll get to Worlds as like a Masters 3, 14th place, but I'll get there.
It all comes.
Yeah.
So this next bit, I call it the 3 truths. Kind of stole it from a podcast that I follow.
Yeah.
So it's your last day, many years from now on Earth, and all the work you've ever done and created is somehow lost.
Okay.
What are the 3 truths that you would want to leave that you'd be remembered for?
That is a very, very difficult question. So would this be 3 things in the ostomy community, or just any of the? We'll go for at least one relevant to ostomy, and then you can pick whatever you want to do with the rest of them. Okay, cool. So the ostomy one is, I would want people to know that you can do anything with an ileostomy bag, I would hope that the content I have to make would be a really good video. Maybe I should make that to just show a load of different aspects like rock climbing, swimming, traveling, and Amberostomy. She jumped out of an airplane recently, yeah. So I want that for like the ostomy thing. The other, I'd like to be. I don't know how that would come across, how I would be able to do, but so it was three things I'd like to be remembered by.
Yeah, three things that you would like to be remembered for.
It'd be nice to be known as like the strongest person in the world with an ostomy bag in the 3 lifts, because that's the only competition I do. And then the last one would be that'd be quite difficult. So yeah, this is a hard question. I'd like to just be remembered as like a humble individual, just a normal guy who didn't think he was better than anybody else, who was just sharing his experience and showing that the first 2 things, but that I was just your average Joe who ended up with an ileostomy bag, who just wanted to carry on his life as normal. I think that would be it.
That's class.
The second one wasn't so humble, but I wanted to get something powerlifting related in there.
That's cool. Okay, the last thing is just to say, hi, my name is, I have ulcerative colitis, or you can say I've got ulcerative colitis and an ostomy or stoma.
Yeah.
And then we can fight it together.
1 second. I want to read it so that I can remember it perfectly for you. So, hi, my name is Joseph Greenley. I have ulcerative colitis, which meant I have an ileostomy bag, and we can fight this. Oh. I almost got it. I'm so sorry. And we can fight it together. We can fight it together. Apologies. Hi, my name is Joseph Greenley. I have ulcerative colitis and from it an ileostomy bag, and we can fight this together.
Perfect. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on. It's been absolutely brilliant just to chat to you.
Yeah, I've never done anything like this before. I've listened to podcasts, but I've never thought I'd ever take part in one.
Yeah, so I think I really want to try and sort of, because I think Instagram's been good and I've stumbled across yourself on YouTube and stuff like that, but I just don't think there's enough out there where we're sharing our own sort of paths and what we're doing. And I just think it gives us another opportunity for someone to find it and be like, that's what I need.
Yeah.
Hey guys, that was a great episode. I really enjoyed speaking to Joseph. I really liked his approach to the 3 truths and getting his powerlifting goal in there. And of course now with this episode, he's officially a powerlifter. He has competed in the competition that you mentioned. Well done to Joseph. If you really enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon if you like 2019 style, and leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you think. If you've got any suggestions or you'd like to be featured in the podcast, let me know in the comments and I'll hit you up. I guess I'll see you guys on the next episode.